In this episode, we take a look at the reporting about Facebook raking in billions pushing scam ads on its users. Hello, welcome to the Call Like I See It podcast. I'm James Keys, and joining me today is a man who can make it look effortless, even though it ain't easy. Tunde Ogunlana. Tunde, are you ready to bring that me against the world mindset here today?
Yeah, man. I feel like my wife needs to hear you say that quote. And she might not agree with you, but
you got it.
I'll just, but it's better if it's like live. But I'm gonna call you later today and let you say it on speakerphone to her. Okay?
There you go. Now, before we get started,
I'll tell her you're my attorney too. That's right.
There you go. Now, before we get started, if you enjoy the show, I ask that you subscribe and like the show on YouTube or your podcast app. Doing so really helps the show out. We're recording on November 11th, 2025. And Tunde, we recently saw reporting from Reuters that Facebook is making billions of dollars selling ads and showing these ads on the platform, knowing that they're showing ads that Facebook has a pretty good idea are scam ads. And so, anybody who's on these platforms has seen these type of ads and so forth, and hopefully has ignored them and so forth. But, I want to, what stands out to you in this reporting where, Facebook is already, a rich company, but they're making potentially up to 10% of their revenue coming from showing their users scams, things that they know are scams, even to the extent where we've seen in the reporting that they charge a higher price for these ads that they deem to be scamish, so to speak. So what really stands out to you in this?
That part stands out, actually, the part you just mentioned, that up to 10% of their revenue may come from selling scam ads. It's just like, so there's a lot there. I mean, I know this is a very interesting topic because, number one, it makes me appreciate the concept of a shadow economy. Because I think,
that was the thing that came to me.
Yeah, we don't appreciate, I think, just us as Americans in general, how much of our GDP is actually stuff that we probably wouldn't want to know about, just from laundering money for drugs and human trafficking, all that kind of real shady kind of what would be considered underworld economy, to things like this, like actual large corporations, companies that are big names in the S&P 500 type of thing, that we think are all clean, and they also benefit from whether they look the other way with certain shadow economy activities, or whether they themselves participate in things that we would otherwise look as not that ethical. And I think that this is a big one because, to me, just that, as a financial planner, I have to deal with elderly clients that get scammed. People in their late 70s, 80s who are older, they click on a link off of an ad, maybe on a Facebook, maybe on some other platform. They get text messages where they click on links, and as much as the family and people tell them not to do it, right? They're old and they're forgetful memory, and all that, and they're easy prey, they're easy marks. And so it's like, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised, James. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those where this is kind of like, oh, okay, wow. But then it's like, number one, it's Facebook. And we know that they have had now 15 years. We've been seeing internal memos leaked and studies where they know that their product is harmful for humans, kind of like the tobacco industry was.
The scam ads, I don't think even rises to the level of genocide.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe this is a cleaner version of Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when the tobacco industry, like if we just found out that, they were putting in, I don't know, some mundane chemical and not the ones that really were bad for us. But I don't know, man. That's why I say I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised. But I find it just interesting again, like I said, the shadow economy thing, the fact this is a new industry, this whole tech thing with the social media and all that. And then the fact that just like tobacco and oil in the last century, these guys have now, with their money, they've infiltrated power, right? They now have a seat at the table in American power. So the question is, will the regulator class, will the government actually do something to protect Americans against these kind of scams or not? And I think that probably not, at least for now, because of just like in the 20th century, the relationship between money and power.
Yeah. Because a lot of the money so much money is made on the scams, and I looked it up. I mean, that UN estimates like 2 to 5% of global GDP is from criminal activity, which is a lot, and that's probably undershooting it.
Probably higher.
It's hard to you
that
can't
sounds
really
low.
compute it. So I mean, so 10% Facebook based on this scam likely stuff is probably right in line. And to me, the part that you said that actually, like, I think the tobacco industry is a good comp in the sense that we do know the tobacco industry added things to their, historically particularly, but even now, they would add chemicals that are bad for you to tobacco in order to make it more addictive. So they were doing that purely as a bottom line thing. It was like, hey, if we make it more addictive, people will buy more and so forth like that. And I mean, but again, that's the same industry. They were advertising to kids and so forth through, all these different approaches. So that industry, if not restrained by, if there's nobody looking out for the masses, basically, that industry would exploit us for a profit is a pretty well-established principle here in the United States. So that, from that standpoint, you shouldn't be surprised. You can't be surprised. I'm surprised as an attorney. I'm surprised more so that at just the level of how Facebook has been able to, through lobbying and so forth, limit their liability for stuff like this. Because Facebook or whatever, Instagram or any other stuff, this is a platform that they control. So if you go into a grocery store and swipe, at the register, and then from there, some actor, that wasn't actually a real register from that grocery store. That register was a register from Joe Blow Company, and then they steal your credit card and they start using all these charges. You would go to the grocery store, be like, "Yo, hold up! I was in your store. I trusted that I was doing business with you. How come I'm getting scammed while I'm thinking I'm doing business with you?" You would think that there'd be some type of liability to that grocery store saying, "Hey, I'm in your room. I'm in your house, in your doors. I'm inside your building, and I think I'm doing business with you." Or that at minimum, the people I'm doing business with have been allowed in here by you. So therefore, if there's people out here doing stuff that's underhanded, you have some level of responsibility for that. In many areas of law, that's how it works. But apparently in this case, that's just not how it works, or at least it hasn't been tested, because now that this reporting's out, I'm sure there's lawyers looking at it. They'll be like, hey, this is because this does not pass the smell test. That you go to Facebook and stuff that Facebook is serving you through their technology is things that is scams. Not like just, they kind of make it look a certain way, but like just, and Facebook knows it so much to the extent that they charge these scams more money. Why do they charge them more money? Because one, they can, because who else is a scam?
I know, that's great.
And then two, conceivably, you charge them more money because the potential liability they have for putting it out there. So I think there's more that's going to come from this. But and again, like we talked about, and what was it, Myanmar, where the Facebook, and we've seen, the Facebook, it was the Facebook algorithm helped foster a genocide. And so we've seen Facebook is not some white knight actor. We know that they will cut corners or do things that will harm people in order to make more money. But this, to me, like, it seems like this is such a direct kind of, hey, we're going to use this platform to push this stuff that ultimately scams people. It seems like this seems like it can't continue. Like, this would seem like there's a lawsuit, a big lawsuit, and again, but the ability to lobby to be able to get out of liability using, like the just getting laws written saying, hey, you can't sue somebody for this, is pretty powerful. So I would imagine that if they haven't done it, they're working on it now, because this would seem to be a big goal.
Let me jump on the limited liability, because I got a thought, but I actually want to stay on this for a second, because it's a very good point you make, and you said that it reminds me of the gun manufacturers, that it's another example of something that we all know is there in our country, which is the issue with guns. And I don't mean people that just want to hunt and treat the Second Amendment in a way out of respect. I'm talking about people that go do school shootings and people that walk into Walmart and kill 20 people or whatever, right? And so my point is that it's come out recently, I think 2-3 years ago, somewhere in the last 2-3 years, that the number one cause of death for Americans under 18 years old, who we otherwise call children, is firearms. That's crazy when you think about you're supposed to be the top country in the world and all that. And so,
well, I mean, we are the top country in the world when it comes to that, aren't we?
Okay.
As far as kids getting killed by firearms?
I meant top in other ways.
Oh, you mean
like we're supposed to be top in positive ways.
Oh,
that one to me is negative. Yeah. So, but in any case, but that's kind of why I say it's interesting, right? But instead of talking about that, like I said, we live in a state where drawing rainbows on state property is illegal, right? So what I'm saying is the direction of our
Well, how many?
conversation.
But hold on. How many kids have been killed because people drew rainbows on state property?
I mean, I need to go investigate that actually. So
Because
I apologize.
clearly it must be a number that justifies that. Because the gun
for that.
It wouldn't rise to the level of the guns, right?
Yeah, I didn't come prepared for that in this discussion. So since I'm not well researched, I guess you won this round. So the public will believe now that
that's not how the internet works, man. You're supposed to say stuff and not know if it's true.
You know what's sad, James?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was out the other day and I saw an actual real rainbow in the sky, like a real one, because it had just rained. And I was kind of sad. I was like, man, leave it to this group of people that actually make something that beautiful, like the enemy of our, cultural enemy. It's crazy. So anyway, but back to the topic at hand. And that's why I say it's like I love going to shoot guns and all that stuff and have fun with my friends doing it. So it's not about not liking guns, but it's this idea that we don't seem to have that conversation. We want to talk about, what the risk of trans people is to our kids or whatever people want to say about that topic, but we don't talk about the guns and the fact that statistically it's been shown that guns kill more kids than anything else in this country. And so should it be a shock that one of the largest companies that makes up 5% of the entire S&P 500 makes 10% of its revenue on allowing scammers to scam people on its own platform, its own customers? And so that would be like, James, if a bank found out that some company was just defrauding its customers and all that, they just said, yeah, well, we're just going to charge you higher bank fees. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we're not going to actually call the FBI and the Treasury Department and stop this and protect our customers. And so that's what I mean by it's a new industry, and they've been able to go through these regulatory seams and cracks in the system. And I guess, and like you said, through lobbying and other things, and them just throwing money at the government now, I guess.
Well, I want
it the other way. That.
Well, yeah, but the thing of now, and I'm not.
Hold on, I just say this joke. If you fund and inaugurate a ballroom at the White House, then no one looks at you. That's what apparently the message.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of how it works. That's how they think it works because all of them put their money up on it.
That's what I'm saying.
This is buying us a get out of jail free card. But to me, the limited liability thing is very interesting because there's a lot of debate in terms of whether service providers for internet channels, or for being able to provide the tubes that allow the internet to be delivered everywhere, and then also the service providers, the ISPs and stuff like that. Whether when people do something that is quote unquote illegal or something like that using their service, should they be liable for that? And there's a big difference. We've talked about this because a lot of times the social media companies will say, well, we should be covered under that as well because we shouldn't be liable for anything somebody says or does on our platform, just like the Xfinity or something shouldn't be liable if somebody's using, their internet connection in order to build a website that does something illegal. The biggest difference though is that the Facebook people and the social media people, that stuff is algorithmically done, versus the internet service providers literally providing the service to anyone. You buy different levels of service, and it's not like, oh, well, Xfinity will show your website more if you do this or do that, so to speak. At least, I'm not going to get into a net neutrality debate right now. But nonetheless, the where Facebook is different from that is that Facebook does make decisions on on their platform, what you see, what you don't see, how often you see it. So they aren't the same as when you're talking about these limits of liability for internet service providers. That debate does not and should not incorporate the social media companies who are making decisions through algorithms are making decisions on what you see. So the Facebook algorithm is determining when you see these scam ads. And more interestingly to me, also in this reporting, was that if you click on one scam ad, the Facebook algorithm sees you kind of like as a dupe. And so we'll start serving you more scam ads because it's like, oh yeah, this is the kind of idiot that clicks on scam ads. So let's show them more because we can get more money by showing them more scam ads because they're likely to click on them. And so to me, I mean, this is so offensive to me. It's just like somebody we need lawsuits filed. We need this is just mind blowing to me that this is going to be 10% of their revenue. So I'm glad we're able to talk about it. I know we want to get out of here. I know you have one more, but
hold on.
I know you have one more thing, man. but I'm just blown away by this. This is again, it's not as bad as genocide, but it is in which Facebook has been a part of, or that their algorithm has been a part of something increasing with there. But this is really bad, because you're preying on the weakest of the society at that. So let me
just do a thing, because when you were to use that word genocide, be careful. You were talking about Myanmar. He wasn't trying to bring in a whole different topic here, because I feel like when you use that word, it's a very loaded word in today's discussions, generally. But here's the thing, man. You make a great point, and I'm going to say again that American people chose to go this direction. So that's why I just look at it as matter of fact. It is what it is. For whatever reason, people wanted to, the type of leadership we have, and that's fine. And we live in a democracy, representative government. So this is what it is. But one of the first things
to be fair, I think what you're saying is that not that people chose to go this way, but more Americans than not decided that other things were more important. It was more important to stop the Haitians in Ohio
eating your cats and dogs.
Yeah, exactly. That was more important.
No, I get it. So you're being very nice.
That's really what it is more than anything.
Thanks for being generous. So let me go back and be negative. No, on a serious note, James, because think about it, one of the first things that DOGE knocked out was something called the Consumer Protection Bureau, right?
Yes.
The part of the government that was supposed to stop companies from doing this to their own customers. Now, I remember reading about that cost the United States taxpayer $800 million a year to run that department.
So we had to free that money up so we can give $20 billion or $40 billion to Argentina.
Yeah, of course. Well, that math is interesting, but okay. So, but no, my point is, on a serious note, it cost $800 million to run annually, and it collected $21 billion in recovery for American consumers. So it was a net profit to American taxpayers. But that wasn't good enough, because people like Zuckerberg, who bought themselves into an administration, or let's say, the Tesla guy, the bottom line is that's what they don't want. They don't want regulators looking at their companies, because it's much easier to make 10% scamming people who already are customers than it is to go and compete, right? And not be a monopoly and have to actually compete in the marketplace with other companies that might be able to compete with what you're doing. So that to me is one important distinction that, again, people aren't talking about, that the mechanisms to protect all of us as consumers have been dismantled. The destruction of the administrative state. And so again, that's what I'm saying.
Place previously, I mean, longer view, these types of issues came up before. So these mechanisms to give consumers a heavy hammer, also allow us to fight fire with fire through the government action, were put into place. And then these things were dismantled, in the past year, so that the consumers, so that the people weren't able to fight fire with this type of conduct. So, I mean, that's the direction. Like you said, people have other priorities, or a good chunk of the American electorate have other priorities, other than trying not to get scammed by huge companies, So that's the world we live in right now. And I guess, maybe once people feel the pain from it, they will decide that not getting scammed is a higher priority, and maybe not. No, we will see. Or other people, more people will come and participate that realize that these other folks that are so worried about Haitians eating pets, they need to be voted out. They need to be outvoted, like that, which, would be more my thought, is that, hey, these people have their priorities are out of whack. We got to outvote them, because they're the dog following around anything. Just, oh, what about this? Oh, what about that? They're too afraid to make rational decisions, and so we got to outvote them. So, but I think we got to. It's going to be
Hondurans eating their cats and pets next. That's why. Don't worry. Wait, it'll be a new boogeyman.
It'll be something else. It's always something else. That's what I'm saying.
When all the Haitians are gone, it'll be someone else.
These people are too easy to make afraid. They can be made afraid about anything, and so we got to outvote them, because they're just so fearful. It's just. That's what they're going to do. You sit there and try to talk reason to them. That's not necessarily the way it's going to work, because you can't. They're smart, you can talk reason to them and they can agree with you, but then something else will be put in front of their face that'll make them afraid, and then all that goes out the window. And so that's kind of the way it happens.
You know what?
So
you'll get your tax cut though, so just take it and smile. That's what I'm doing.
But no, I want to close this part up. We'll have a second part as well, but we appreciate everybody for joining us, and we'll talk to you on the other side of the break.